Hi everyone. So to get started when it comes to drawing your type, you have to kind of give yourself some guidelines, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I hope that you've heard a little bit in Intro to Graphic Design, a little bit about typography and anatomy and typography. And so I want to talk a little bit about that anatomy that is directly related to you getting started. That is the ascender height. So H's and B's and D's all have these ascenders, and that's what this orange area is. We have cap height, which is the height of your capitals, and you have the X height, which is floats on that line. Actually, this is the mean line. Sorry. The X height is the height here between the baseline and that mean line, and so the mean line is right here. And so you want to indicate your mean line. You want your baseline, which is where everybody sits. And then occasionally we have letters that are descenders. And so Y and P and G and Q are examples of those descenders. So what I encourage you to do is not just randomly start drawing and see how it works out, because one of the big difficulties people have had in the past are that they sometimes go too big and bold with their ascenders and their descenders, and traditional font programs don't allow for them to generate easily because they're beyond what is the norm. So what I like to do is I like to encourage somebody to find a font that they like the proportions of. It's probably not a surprise if you've had classes with me for a while that, sorry, I can't talk and type at the same time apparently. It's not a big surprise probably for you to know that I'm going to start with Frutiger. And so I have an example of all of these uppercase and all of these lowercase that also indicate, oh, look at that, the X height, the cap height, and some of these may overlap. Not all of the fonts have a space between the ascender height and the cap height. Sometimes those are the same thing. So let's go ahead and see where this one shakes out. So I'm going to go to Window down to rulers and show my rulers so I can start pulling some guidelines. I prefer to go ahead and start pulling guidelines. So I'm going to put that on the top, and then I'm going to put that's the cap height, and then this is the baseline. And then we have the mean line. Remember, the X height is the space between the mean line and the baseline. And then you can see that our ascenders go up just a smidge beyond that cap height. And then you can see we have descenders. Now I made sure that I went for not the J, but the P, because it's a real clean indicator. And so this is basically what we need to create our kind of guidelines. And so what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and move this down, and I'm going to go ahead and give myself guidelines. And basically we're going to create a sheet that we can use to draw from. So I'm going to go ahead and, where's my layers? Because I don't want to be on the same, I don't want to be on the same layer. I don't want to be drawing on the same layer. So we're going to come up one layer. And to be honest, I'm going to give myself a name for this. If this is new for you, for me, I don't necessarily need the name, although, you know, sometimes cap height and ascender height can be tricky. Maybe the caps are higher and the descenders are the ascenders are lower. But I'm going to go ahead and give myself those guidelines. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in and I'm going to draw one line, and I'm going to leave the labeling over here. And I'm going to make that black, and I'm going to make it pretty light. But I'm going to, where's my stroke? Oh, there's my stroke. I'm going to make it 0.5. And then what I'm going to do is we've already got that one line drawn, so I'm just going to copy it. So I'm going to hold down Option. I'm going to hold down Option. You see I get those double arrows, and I'm going to pull that down. And then I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm going to pull that one down. And then I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm holding down Shift at the same time. I hold down Option just to get it going, and then once I get it going, I'll hold down Shift, and that's going to constrain it to left, right, or up, down, whichever it seems to be more dominant. So now we can actually get rid of these, and you can see that I have my template. So before we get going, one of the things, it's a tradition, and you don't have to do it, but I prefer to do it because it kind of breaks up the monotony, and that is that the mean line is a dash line. So we're going to give that dash line. And so we're going to come up here and say ascender, and I'm going to make that 8-point type, and I'm going to just drop it up here. And then I'm going to do cap height over here, but because we've already established what font this is going to be and how big, cap height, that might actually be spelled with a hyphen, I don't remember. And then the rest of these I can come over here and label on one end, and this is going to be our mean line, and you are going to need these in your drawings. Oops. But we're going to make them really light, and you're going to be drawing over them. So this is your baseline. Oops. And then this is your descender. All right, so we have all that in play, and we have cap height noted over there. I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to go to my swatches, and I'm going to make it a fairly light color because we don't want it to stand out. We want it to drop back, and we want our letters to stand out. And so I think I'm going to leave these guys actually in black, and then drop this down a little bit lower. Maybe even a little bit lower. No, you know what? I wasn't dropping those back lower at all. There we go. So you can see that we have a nice clean kind of format for our design. And so those of you who really like cleanliness, this is going to be right up your alley. And so once I have done that, I'm going to create one, And then I'm just going to give myself a whole page so that you can draw everything on the same page. Give yourself a big distance here so you don't get anything confused. And this should be enough. And so after I've done that, I can lock that and then I can start drawing over it. But what I would encourage you to do is save as your template, because you are going to need these. You're going to need these for your uppercase, lowercase, and special characters and numbers, and we're going to be tackling those in different weeks. So in this first week, we're going to do your lowercase. All right, so now that we have this going, what we're going to do is this is going to be our drawing layer, and we're just going to label that drawing, and then right below that, or actually right below layer 2, which is our guidelines. I can decide how to spell. All right, and then right below that, this is actually going to be, so the best option for you is to hand draw all your letters, and so this is going to be our scan, and that's where we're going now. So we're going to drop our scan in, and I already have it over here to the side in my templates, and I'm just going to drop it in. And then what I need to do is look to get this in a reasonable indication, so you can see that I am playing around here with something that is all caps, and the lowercase looks like uppercase, but so it doesn't have an ascender or a descender. So I'm going to scale these so that I can fit it in to work with my X height. And then we'll go and check and see if our uppercase works. Sometimes it seems like it's just a little bit off and then it takes forever. Okay, so that's where we're at for our lowercase. Let's see how our uppercase, you can see our uppercase are going to have to be scaled separately. So these, and so one of the things I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop that into Photoshop real quick, and I'm going to, so I can scale these separately. Actually, one of the things that I can do, because this is an uppercase and a lowercase, is I can actually use the same drawings here, so it's not a big deal. All right, so once I do that, you can see that these are a little bit too there, so I'm going to make them semi-transparent so that they drop back a lot and get them into position. I'm going to start with these guys. And you know, you're going to have to play around with it. You need enough detail that you can see, but not too much. And then I'm going to lock that because I'm only going to be drawing up here. Now, if you're doing these in Illustrator, you're going to be drawing these each independently. And what I would encourage you to do is, for example, this shape is used a lot of places. So I would start by drawing letters that I knew were going to be used over and over. There we go. And so I'm going to hold down Shift when I need to, And I'm going to rough it out. You guys know how I draw because all of you have, you know, mostly been in my class. So I'm going to rough this shape out really quick, holding down shift when I need to. And then I'm going to flip that. I want this to be black and I don't want a stroke. And then I'm going to go in and start perfecting things that I know that I'm going to be using over and over again. So I'm going to give myself a little curve here. I'm going to give myself that nice little curve there. Now, where am I going to use this? And I would spend a lot more time than I just did. But you can see that, let's see, the D is going to need that. So I would go ahead and copy it over that way. And nobody else does. So then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the same thing down here. But what I'm going to do is, because I've already got this drawn, I'm going to go ahead and drag that down here, and then I'm just going to add. So the best thing to do is just to draw directly over it. And I'm going to kind of overdo it in terms of where I go. And then I have to clean this guy up, right, because he's not squared off. And then I'm going to come over and create that curve. And so after, and I would spend a lot more time than I did drawing that. But after that, if you have not played with the Pathfinder, please know that it is your best friend for this. Right over here is my Pathfinder. I'm going to combine those because I've already got copies of this. And by the way, I often pull these guys up here so that I have, when I have created, a shape, just so that if I screw something up, I can always go back. And so where does this work? Well, that one works right here, and it should work right here, and it looks like that's it. So now, you know, I'm noticing that this shape, so I want to go ahead and do the eye. So to do the eye, though, you know, it's always in our best interest to do something like this. And to be honest, one of the ways that I could have gotten away with drawing that part that we just did was I could have cut it in half, front minus back, and then I'm going to duplicate this. Can never remember. Oh, there's my reflect. I'm going to go to reflect, double click, and I'm going to copy it. And then just drop that. And you can see that I'm a little bit off. It needed to be wider. And I'm not following along with staying on my path, but you know, I want to kind of give you the perspective of how I kind of get going. So once I've done that, I'll combine that. Make sure at this point, if there's any weird extra points, that you get rid of them. Again, I would be spending a lot more time doing this. So once I've created that shape, I'm going to drag that up here. And then I'm going to find all the places where that shape exists. And that shape exists there. It exists there. It exists here. It exists here. So now, and it does exist here as well. So let's say we'll do the J next. So we go ahead and grab that J. I'm going to go ahead and chop the bottom of this off. Again with my Pathfinder, so I'm going to click both of those and I'm going to do front minus back. And then I'm going to come in and click right down, create the bottom of my J. I like to stay kind of in the same parallel area. And then we're going to create the bottom of that J. So you can see that these kind of go together really quickly. You know, if you take the wrong or the right approach, I'm going to combine those. I have some weirdness here, so I know that I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that point, and it just cleans it up and smooths it out. So you can see that I've been doing this video for 21 minutes, and I already have, you know, and a good portion of the video was not devoted to how to draw this, but I already have 2 of my letters created. So they go really fast. You just have to think about it as a puzzle. Oh, and we have all these letters down here that we can start filling in. So we have this guy. It's going to need that. And then this guy is going to need that. And then we'll go ahead and extend him. And then I think that's it for the time being. So you can see it goes really quickly. You just have to think about creating kind of components that you can build together. So for example, the next thing that I would do is I would work on the O. And the O, obviously we'd want to start with a circle. And then just stretch it out from there so that it fits the proportions. And then once we've done that, you notice that this one is a little bit flatter. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to just flatten that out. I'm going to flatten that out so that it fits within the proportions. And then I'm going to duplicate that and I'm going to make it white. All right. Oops. Make sure that you do not have, I'm gonna give myself just the outline version of this, and then I'm gonna bring this in with the outline as well, and no fill, so that we can see where we need to go. So we can see that I scaled this a little bit. This is the one that I just duplicated, so I can bring that in, and it's pretty close top and bottom to where it needs to be, but it needs to come in this way and it needs to come in this way. And once I've done that, I can flip that, and I'm going to go ahead and flip this, and I'm going to grab both of those and I'm going to use my front minus back again. Now once I've done that, there's all kinds of letters that we're going to use for this, right? So we're going to use it for the Q, obviously. We are going to probably use it for the start of the U, and it's going to take a little different path. We should use it for part of the D, although the D is a little bit different. So you can see that this happens really quickly. You know, and using the shapes over and over again will keep you from having inconsistency when you develop, and that's the hardest thing. If I just drew from each letter that I'd hand drawn, I'd start developing letter forms that were mildly inconsistent, and then I had to go back and tweak and change. All right. So what do I expect? What I expect is that you have created this and are drawing over it, and then have everything in place. And for the first round of drawings, let me go into, all right, so you're going to be posting like this so I can see your x height, your mean line, your baseline, your descender, and your cap height. And I'm only asking you to post 13 of your lowercase letters for me for review. Normally next Monday you're gonna be doing all 26 of your uppercase, but I'm asking you only to do 13 because this first drawing moment is going to require you to do the most detailed work, because you're going to be drawing those components and putting those pieces together. And then it should get easier every time you draw a letter because you'll add things. One of the things that I was doing is I was combining things as I was drawing. You can consider not combining things, which sometimes works in your best interests, because then you can pull them apart, but they're very easy to chop up and use as you need to. So that is what's going to be due, on this first day of drawing. And I look forward to seeing your posts.